So I just had this amazing chat with Jimmy Kim from SendLane, and we're about to share that with you. If you are in the SMS email space or digital marketing and retention area, you need to check this out. The guy is changing the game by getting rid of all the things that we hate, and he's actually breaking down all of the ways to use things, even if you don't use it, which I love. This guy is a true mensch. This is going to be amazing. And before we get started, I just want to say, I know you can be literally anywhere on the internet right now, and you've chosen to be here, and for that, I want to say thank you. So go ahead and hit like and subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell so you don't miss anything else. And with that being said, let's get to it. All right, with that, yeah, so just talking about email and stuff, and also sort of the idea of one of the things I'm really trying to get behind with this is, I think I mentioned this when we were talking, but just the idea of helping people see more success by simplifying things, using the right tech, using the right tools, seeing less stress. And I think what this really does towards the end is kind of pony straight into what SendLane is doing. And so let's get started with this. You know, I really appreciate you getting a chance to talk with you here. And, you know, what I'm really enjoying, one, I think we've been in an established space of sort of a few people at the top of where folks are seeing advice when it comes to email and SMS marketing. And I think we're also used to a few tools at the top that may or may not really care about the folks that are actually using them. And I'm a big believer in when there's a bit of a monopoly, there's a bit of a lackadaisical approach. And when people have to deal with legacy clients, they don't really move forward. And that's one of the things that really connected me with you. So one of the things that I loved when I got to see you talk at the Whaleys was when you were talking about the real world needs of clients in email marketing. And I would just love to know sort of like where you're seeing that come from, because everybody's like, oh, send more emails, make more money. But that's not really what it's about. And as somebody that's terrible at email marketing, that just spams everybody on my email list, please help me understand more about caring about those real world needs, because
oh man,
I need help.
Okay. The loaded questions, lots of loaded questions. I love them, Charlie. All right. So look, when it comes to obviously what we do here, and there's a lot of components of what we do as a company and all that stuff. Obviously, we're attaching in, but I think before I even go into that, I'd like to kind of start and step back a little bit, because I think it's helpful for the audience. Where did like my love of email come from? I think that's where it really gets interesting, right? So my love of email goes all the way back to 2008, right? And in 2008, I discovered something. I could build a group of people that would subscribe to my list, and I can send them an email on a mass message that was faster than direct mail, faster than anything, get it right in front of their face. And if they clicked on it, they might buy something and someone will pay me for that, right? And I was like mind blown. That was when it started for me, right? And so like it really helped me start to like kind of figure out email and understand. And that's like when I started learning it. And back then it was easy, man. Anyone could be a great email guru and everything else. And so over the years it was interesting. And one day I dabbled and invested into this little well, it was a retail store at that time. It was a retail storefront. And I dabbled and I was like, yeah, I put a little investment in it, got really interested in it. And then it said, hey, can I become a partner? And that's kind of how I became an e-commerce founder, right? Because the first thing I did when I showed up was, we need an e-commerce store. So we spun up a Shopify site and we went off to the races. And then 3 years later, man, we were a complete D2C brand, no storefront. It went to the opposite way from retail. So like, it was a cool journey. We had creative differences at the end. He wanted to stay cool. I wanted to be a capitalist, and life didn't work there. But again, the biggest learning there was I needed email. And back then, the only two tools were this tool called Bronto and MailChimp. And there was only two email marketing tools available. And I thought I could do better, and it was way easy to build it, of course, right? So that's kind of how we started it. And now that kind of goes to the SendLane story, and that's where I kind of come in. Well, what's been interesting is like everything I've done in life and business has always led to email. Email has always been this core of it, and it's given me an interestingly unique passion about it. I've learned everything from what you said, the deliverability, which is that secret engine that no one knows about. Well, I know a little bit more than the average Joe about it. In fact, I have a team of people who've taught me a lot too. In fact, in my team alone, I've got the guy who was one of the 11 people who wrote the Can Spam Act and made DMARC what DMARC is today. Like,
fair enough. Yeah, that person probably doesn't like the way I do things.
No, probably not. But he's here because he believes in, you know, the fact that we're still what they call pure play ESP. That's what people call us, right? Because we're not sitting on top of a third party like Klaviyo is, for example, right? That's the behemoth in the room, right? And so, you know, that's what makes us interesting. But the love of email comes from me is very simple. I think that email empowers communication and empowers experience. It's the way that we've now been trained to buy, and it's the way that people want to buy, right? You know, there's SMS, there's all these things, but email at the end of the day is still going to be that driver of money and communication to your customer. And I think with COVID and everything going on with e-commerce and the boom, it's been been a really interesting thing. But now the thing I talk about often, there's multiple things I like to talk about on the internet. I think I talk about 3 things on the internet right now. I talk about I talk about deliverability. That's 100%. I talk about that.
Love it.
The second thing I talk about is your broken playbooks. And what I'm talking about is the fact that we are all doing the same thing we've done for 20 years on email, literally. But Charlie, you're a acquisition guy. You guys are iterating like this. You're changing your playbook. I remember the first time you and I met, you were hitting someone hard on a stage, and we were like, and I came up to you afterward. I was like, but I agree with you. He's talking about the 2015 playbook for acquisition, not the 2021 playbook or 2022 playbook, right? It's evolving. But in email, I can go back to 2015 and still have the same similar playbook and say, yeah, that's good enough, right? Well, why do we accept that? And that's really like the second thing that I talk a lot about in the market is very much the fact that we need to start thinking about the change in the playbook. We have intent signals, we have data, we have all this cool stuff, but yet we still do the same thing, maybe just a little bit better by targeting and segmenting, right? But what about personalizing the actual journey and thinking about like, if I click on the men's clothes, maybe I'm not interested about your women's clothing next week. You know what I mean? Maybe that intent should tell me that this is the type of products I want. And I always say it, I always laugh, but really email marketers tend to be lazy. And we tend to be lazy about, oh man, if I add another segment, it's not going to do that. But it's not about adding the segment. It's not even about the result today. It's about the future result of making that customer more of a loyal customer because you're sending them targeted messages, right? So like the long tail is what's hard to see for many people because they think I can get the result today, but what about the result tomorrow and the next week, right? Attrition is crazy, man. You know, with SMS, we'll talk about that side of just briefly here. The attrition rate on SMS is horrendous. Why, right? Because, well, think about it. You go to a site and you are forced to give a phone number to get a 20% off coupon.
Sure. Spin the wheel, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever the heck it is. Well, if no one doesn't want a discount, right? But you know what people can do? They can ignore you. They can unsubscribe after getting it. And it's really interesting because as many people pop and lead with these things, they get on the list. People don't ever do the one thing that I always think about, which is hygiene and cleaning. This goes back to deliverability point. But like, again, it's happening in SMS. We went all the way back to the batch and blast, and we didn't start evolving and start going, there's an intent signal. They're clicking on things about men's shoes, but not women's shoes. Maybe they just like men's shoes, like little things that we should be thinking about. And then the third thing I talk about in the market is unification. I believe the biggest thing in the market that's broken as a tech person is that there's too much. The stack is too big. We're all relying on integrations that actually don't do anything for most cases, or they do something that they're supposed to, but really because someone told them that's how you're supposed to do it, right? Yeah. I believe the stack's broken, and I believe that things need to be together because together allows data to merge and things to happen across the world, right? Yeah, you're preaching to the choir. I love it. 100%. Yeah. I think, you know, a triangle is the strongest shape, and most people are out there trying to market with a dodecahedron, and like you have no idea what is going on. You know what the worst part is? It's just the time that we're spending. Like, log into this app, that app, look at this thing. How do you know what's missing? Yeah, until I love it's it. Like late. Simplicity is, you know, one of the points you bring in here that I love is if it's simple. I think so many people are trying to find the edge in so many places, but they're trying to basically compile this master list of like short-term non-scalable hacks. Yep, correct. And it's like, exactly you could just stabilize this and then work on building a better business. And you've got it. And like so many people just are relying on like, and I see this all the time in acquisition of just like, well, all I need is if my Facebook ads work, this business is going to be successful. And like, I always tell people that's like going on the Shark Tank and saying, all I need is you. And they're like, why am I like, give me 100% of the business. Like, what am I even here for? Like, it's a waste of my time. Yeah. And I love that you're talking about that in email marketing. And something that you're saying is just like all these mistakes. I'm wondering, in the effort to maximize email marketing, what are some of the biggest pitfalls that like you're seeing way too many people do? I feel like it just leads right into what you were just saying. Yeah, you know, and this goes to that short-term mentality often, right? So there's a lot of pitfalls, but, you know, I think one of the things I said actually at the Whaleys was, you know, and I made that presentation specifically for that talk because it's the future that no one really realized in this market. And let me tell you why, okay? Everything in the world works in patterns. I believe in the world of patterns, right? And if I look back at e-commerce, I look at it as a very infant market. It's very new. It's very young, right? Yeah. Where the dot-com bubble was 10 years before, another 10 years before, other industries kind of rose, right? Well, the thing about e-commerce has been really interesting on email side has been two things. One, the data has always been pure on e-commerce because they haven't had third-party ingestion. They haven't had intent tools out in the market. They don't have all of these weird things. They didn't have spam bots back in the day. So data was always pure. So like e-commerce in general, deliverability has never been a problem, but it's changing because things are happening. Forms are ingesting. There's bots in the world. There's intent tools that people don't understand how to use. And I'm not here to pick on that one, but that's a great tool if you know how to use it. If you don't, you will destroy your business at the same time. Right. So like there is a whole thing, and that hidden layer is called deliverability. Right. And I always tell people, like, doesn't matter if you have the best tools in the world, the best copy in the world, the best brand, but if the person doesn't get the damn email, well, who the heck is going to read it and buy anything? Right. And that is something that I feel in this market, especially, people don't pay attention to, where they should be paying attention to. And some of these inflated stats that I see often, I'm always like, but what is actually happening in your business, and how much money are you leaving on the table simply by optimizing this little thing that should just be best behaviors that you're doing anyways in the market, which again, go back to the whole adage of I follow the old playbook, I don't want to change it. Right. Yeah. But the reality is if you simplified it, got tight on your segments, did the right things there, had the right flows and working, you are just as optimized if you would have gone versus hacking the thing and trying to attack every dollar and cent in the long run. It really doesn't make that much of a difference. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's like we try so much and worry so much of things that really don't make big on the business, where there's so many opportunities out there to do things bigger, right?
Yeah. So and I totally agree with you. And to call myself out as somebody, I have this mentality of like, I will send every email to every person. If they block me, I don't care, because like whatever, they weren't going to buy. But it's like, I know that like I'm missing this awareness to purchase, the role of email marketing in the sales funnel. It's not just like buy now, never, oh, you don't like me, you don't want me to come around again, fine, then you're dead to me. Yeah. And like, I know that I'm doing it wrong, but I also know it's not my core competency, and I'm just burning through stuff because, to be fair, I don't need that to work to be successful. But if I could make it work, I could do so much more. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. Like, and it's not, people overcomplicate it. Simplify. I always tell people, make it simple. It's not that confusing, right? Like the core basics of, we all got the same infrastructure there. It's when you start getting advanced that it gets confusing. So to your point, it's, I always say acquisition and retention need to work together like yin and yang, no matter what. All that hard work generating leads, and someone's got to take care of them, nurture them, and close them, right? Yeah. And I always think that's always an interesting thought. People don't think like that. They're like acquisition only or retention only, but you got to do both, right? Yeah. And in the Facebook ad side, I see the same problem. People say, well, this is a prospecting ad, this is a mid-funnel ad, this is a bottom funnel ad. And I always tell people, like, you don't know where that person is in your funnel. If every time somebody comes into your store, you treat them as somebody that has no awareness. But what if they just went to 4 other stores exactly like yours today, and they're ready to buy, but you say, okay, I know you're ready to buy, but hold on a second. We're going to go through this whole thing. Like it's like if IKEA made you go through the whole thing to buy, they didn't have little shortcut doors, and that's the way you ran your entire business. Like that doesn't work. Right. No. Like that's, you can't scale a business by disrespecting your customers in that way. And I'm just saying that because I know that I'm guilty of it. And that's what I said too. When you got off the whale, he's like, this is a room full of people where nobody really cares about what you have to say. And you got a good, like half of them to shut up and actually pay attention. And that was amazing. In a room full of Facebook nerds and like alpha bros, to get them to all shut up and be like, oh, wait a minute. Free money? What am I doing wrong? And I mean, that's a massive oversimplification, but just, for the purpose of it, I think that was amazing. And you really made me think about something. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. Just like with the idea of being so binary of either this person that get the email address makes a sale or they don't. And some people are in a journey, and I've seen the nurturing and I've seen all that, but it's not. What I'm curious is, one of the big things we face in Facebook marketing and digital marketing in general, I say that we face it because I don't believe in its existence, is this concept of attribution. Sure. Like, what ad gets credit for the sale? I'm of the belief the average customer journey is decades long. Like, the reason you bought those shoes isn't because I told you had feet. Like, you were already in market, and probably not even the first store you went to today to buy those shoes, or like you're a reoccurring customer. So with that being said, How do we like understand if the email marketing audience is converting or if you're just another piece in the puzzle? How do we work on that incrementality, or what is the way you're thinking about it if we're not saying it made a sale or it didn't?
So, what's interesting, that's a really good debate question. And, one of the things that I always say is like, part of the vision for me is to get there and solve that answer by unifying the stack and having the entire life cycle end to end, right? And then I can at least tell you how that attribution happened. Today, I always look at it very simple. Look, unless it's a click that occurs and someone clicks on your email or clicks on your SMS, you shouldn't get attribution. And it shouldn't be a very long window because, well, I always defer back to the human and say, when you click on email, how long does it take for you to look at the email to make the purchase? Usually it's right there or never, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But why do we think that 30 days later, if they make a purchase, was because of your emails? I would say that you brought brand awareness, maybe that, but most likely it was probably the ad that deserves the credit.
Yeah, I know that I get this is a shirt from Dandy Del Mar. Shout out to them. Whenever I get an email from them, I open it, even if I'm not going to buy. But like, I'm just always excited by like what's going to happen. Wicked Clothes is really good with that too. Last Crumb, I blocked them on this SMS because they need help. I love the product, but like they just annoyed the hell out of me. But like there was this part where I was excited about the email, even though I didn't want to buy, but there was something there where it was brand awareness. It was keeping it top of mind. It kept me excited about the brand.
Correct.
In a place where I might not have otherwise.
Yeah, that's absolutely like, and your question originally was really around like, personalized journeys and getting really drawn. I think that it goes like this, right? You've got to use data no matter what. Like the world runs on data, and we've all got to be honest with ourselves and say like, you have to be like, if someone buys men's shoes, you have to assume that they are a man and they like men's shoes, right? Yes, I understand there's a gift. Yes, I understand all the arbitraries, but you got to take from the masses. I always tell people, focus on the 80%. Don't focus on the 20% edge cases. Focus on what the 80% are going to do and guide them along. They're telling you, and this is where the difference happens. Like you just said, taking them down the funnel. No, take them down the funnel, but then guide them down what they've told you they want to learn more about. It's what you guys do, right? They land on a certain page, you retarget them with a very specific ad, right? It's the same thing. If they're clicking on men's shoes, they should be landing on more things about men's shoes and getting ads and emails and SMS on men's shoes because they just told you that's what they want. Stop sending them kids' shoes and women's shoes. They don't care.
It's all the other things. I get it all. Like, especially if brands have like unisex products. Like there's a bag company, good friends of mine, know them. To be fair, they're doing 9 figures. They're leather. Men's isn't really their primary thing. But I mean, I get shoes from them, although I get shoes from them, I'll put it that way. But I get constant emails about just like the women's bags. And I'm like, I've never bought a women's bag from you. Yeah. I've only ever gotten men's shoes of these specific sizes. Why am I seeing all of this? And I think that, what you're kind of getting around with this, and I love it, is sort of making that. Let me ask you this. Do you feel, I feel like you're talking about sort of almost revolutionizing the email marketing to create a memorable customer experience rather than driving the sale.
Correct, my friend. That is exactly what I'm saying. And I believe that it could help speed the sales cycle up to the repeat purchase because you're making it memorable and top of mind so that if I'm walking down the street and someone says, what kind of shoes should I buy? I'm going to think about your brand every time and use it for my word of mouth too, because you're the one brand that seems to care about what I care about. And that's really all it is, man. You think about yourself. I always say, put yourself in retail, man. You walk around the store. You don't walk around the women's section. You walk around the men's section every time you walk in and you look around, right? Yeah. And then they ask you if you want help on the men's section. The ladies section doesn't come over and ask you for help, right? Yeah. You got to figure out how to do it digitally, and you just can't do it without data. So you use data to help prop it up, but then you use behavior to actually drive that effect, right? So like that's the idea really behind is like, the way the playbook's done, everybody's doing it. Nobody's feeling special anymore. It's no longer special. Before, a welcome email was kind of special because it was welcome and you're like, oh, they know I bought something. But now it's like expected, right?
Yeah. I expect a 10-day drip on something. Like
that's what I'm saying. So if you get that, then what are you going to do? You're going to expect it, right? I mean, it's the same thing I tell people, like, stop sending coupons when they first buy. That's the craziest thing you can do. How about you just send instructions? Or UGC on why the product's so good or what they bought is so cool. God, it would be so much nicer. Actually, I had a company, it's like a spray paint company that we bought some card thing for, and they sent me instructions on the first email. And it was, dude, I loved it. I was like, oh, that's how you use it. Got me even more excited about the product coming.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because now
tweet about that.
It's getting you excited, and it's that memorable experience you're talking about. I think,
and then now I'm going to talk about it. If someone says, where should I buy? I'm going to be like these guys because they have good instructions.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's a saying in professional sports. I was talking to you about how I'm in this like dynasty fantasy football.
Yeah. I love this idea. That's dynasty. Yeah.
Dynasty is fun, man. I now like can't even get myself like I do one like normal league a year, but like Dynasty, I'm like, I think I've got 30 some odd trades pending, but I gotta go bother these guys to do it. Anyway, the point with that is like, I think that, when I'm looking at these customer journeys and I'm looking at the email marketing and I'm understanding what is going on, especially even with this group and with other guys, like I'm noticing this. I'm seeing just basically two paths forward, right? That I'm seeing with a lot of this is either folks are saying that the future of emails, that it's sort of this depreciating asset because people are less and less concerned with it.
Yep.
And then I see folks that are absolutely crushing. And I'm wondering, like, because it's a mature market now, like, and I always say, email reached maturity, then Google search reached maturity, then Facebook ads reached maturity. And by maturity, I'm saying it's on the same level as television and radio and billboards and all of that stuff. So what do you have to say to the folks? And to be fair, there's some very smart people in there that have differences of opinion, which I think is great. About saying that it is sort of this depreciating asset in the marketing stack. I mean, I'll reserve my opinion for later, but I think that you and I are probably going to be more in agreement.
Yeah,
than others,
look,
right?
I don't even, I don't have to even like go into the behavior quite as much as talk about the use cases, I say, right?
Yeah.
There's two very simple use cases in life that I look at. One, what is the use case, right? Why do people shop on mobile, but most of your conversions happen on desktop? What does that tell you about people? They always shop. Cool, 100%. I agree on the mobile thing. So important, right? But most people still convert on your desktop for a reason, because they get the email that they click on often, or they came off your mobile device to make a buy, right? Email is always, to me, is like this. Very simple, man. Our generation of the mailbox, the digital physical mailbox is email now, right? Older generation, that was the actual mailbox, right? And to us, as they get older, we still respect the regular mailbox, don't we? We still go get our mail, right? Even though it's archaic and destroyed and dead, it's the same thing. Email will just be another format of communication in our lives, and people just need to learn it. And I think that when people think, oh, I'm going to ignore this channel, I think that they're just doing a big disservice, or they don't have a fundamental understanding of what it could do for them. Because I've never met an email list that doesn't make money. Like, come on, if it's a real email list and it's one of yours and that people bought or opted in, dude, you just set up the dumbest things, like, the simplest things in the world, and they will make money off of it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I am terrible at copywriting. I'm a really bad creative that's not what I'm good at all. But, and I ignored my list for about a year and a half. And I just was like, one day, just like, screw it. I know I got to do this, and I'm doing it poorly, but at least I've got to do it. And playing the game, even though I was doing it at what I would consider C- grade level.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went from like 3% of people blocked me to like maybe 1 out of 6. But like, there are other folks that are coming in. Like, I do see that, like, oh, this person has been around paying attention and doing things for like a year and a half. And then all of a sudden they hit this thing. And I feel like one of the things that as digital marketers, we have to remember, and as business owners and founders and entrepreneurs, we have to remember is nobody cares, right? Like, one of the things I ask people all the time, I see so many people making the mistake of trying to promote all of their products with their Facebook ads. and then they're like, well, the things aren't stable. I'm like, well, it's a machine learning algorithm, and you're teaching it to do 50 things, and you're teaching it very terribly. Yeah. Like, it's a machine learning algorithm. What are you teaching it? You're teaching it to do very bad work. Yep. So don't be upset when your employees have no idea what to do. Yep. But with that being said, then they have to simplify, but they still think that people know about their offers or are aware of what's going on. And I literally have this thing right now where, like, I send something out And then if you don't open it, I send it back to you with a new headline. I do that for like a week, and then I swap out the products. And every week, that's bringing me an extra couple. I'm getting in new customers on stuff that I've been selling for like 2 years that they didn't even know it was there.
Of course, and I get it, right? That's the problem, though. The business owner generally wants to throw it all out there and get it all out there. And as jobs as marketers is that we have to constrain that and control it, focus it, and do one CTA, one product, one focus. Like, I know it sucks to only show one of your 100,000 products you have, but reality is, unless that one hits, none of the 100,000 is going to matter. How about you work on your upsell funnels and your post-purchase funnels, right? Yeah. Then you can get them to come back and buy for more, right? That's all the dream. I think that's just I need it now. Remember the short-term mentality? That's really the problem there, right? It.
I think you're absolutely right. And to be fair, something that I tell people is like, Jordan's represents like a fraction of a percent of Nike's overall sales. Chevrolet doesn't sell very many Corvettes.
No, not at all.
You know what I mean? Like the Big Mac is not the number one selling product at McDonald's. But what you use to market and what you use to get people to buy are two very different things. And with that in mind, with the idea of maybe sort of like I like to think of you kind of spearheading this thing of like an email marketing revolution. The more and more I talk to you versus some of the other folks that I see. And I don't believe
it should be led. I know that I'm leading it as a software guy and all that good stuff, but like, I don't believe it should be led by me. I hope someone will start carrying this forward and realizing the revolution of like, it's time to change, guys. And there's a whole SMS channel. There's all these other data points that are coming in from everywhere in the world. Let's use it to be smarter about it and just drive better stuff for people, like as humans.
So with that being said, like strategically, where do you think it works best? And where do you need it versus maybe potentially not? Like if I wanted to say the 80-20 rule, and I'm a big believer in you can't move mountains if you're worried about the pebbles. What we were just talking about there, it's the way that I like to phrase that. What is that 80%? Or how can I find that? Or in your experience, where is it that when it works best? And why do I need to focus on that versus some of the other stuff I feel like we've covered, but I don't know when to apply that tool?
Yeah, I think it's when you get to a place where you believe that you're stood up and things are running at operational, like my basic flows are running and my newsletters are running. Now it's time to say, how do I optimize this experience, right? Get your base engine running and then optimize, right? And so optimization for me is very simple. It's understanding your business. You already understand. Let's be honest. You only have certain products that are the top sellers. You focus on those top sellers because you need to keep pushing those top sellers, right? You need to speed the sale up. So you mark those as the sales. Those are your CTA and focuses. And then you use that as your top of the funnel net, right? You advertise for these things. If they click on it, they're interested, then you drive them down unique funnels, you get their intent signals and you market towards them. It's optimization post what you've already set up. And it's the next layer of how do I take that extra 20% of 30%, 50% of my revenue and boost it up without over messaging and messaging with people that want the message, right? True personalization, in my opinion. This is what I say, like all these damn things, first party, all this thing that people talk about, all great. And you should use them. But the one personalization point that's most real is the click, because man, when's the last time you clicked on something you didn't want to click on? You don't.
Yeah, right. I love that. Yeah, like that's the ultimate opt-in, right?
Yeah. You're not only opening the email, you've read it, you've liked it, and you've clicked on it, but then they don't purchase. We talk about 1-2% conversion rates. Well, what about all those other 98%? Why didn't they buy? Yeah, well, maybe because they got their dog barked at them, or they lost their wallet, or they had to go to work. Man, it would be really nice if I didn't email them tomorrow with, something completely different off the wall, because now I forgot. Humans, we're like goldfish. We forget these things just like this, man.
Yeah. Like maybe, somebody called you out in the meeting, you had to put your phone down. Maybe the light turned green. Like there's a million reasons.
Dude, you could be at dinner and you got an SMS, you click on, you're like, yeah, I want that 20%. And wife gives you that death stare. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Phone down. And then guess what happens? You forget.
100%.
Right? And if you had an email waiting for you when you got home saying, hey, don't forget to make that purchase of that click you just made, like, oh shit, yeah, I did want to make that purchase. Just moving the buying cycle faster, staying in front of them, making them feel like you are their personal machine in front of them, right?
Yeah, no, I love it. So with all this being said, I think let's try to turn this into some actionability for some.
Sure.
Folks. How do we create the perfect email marketing system for the business, even at a rudimentary level? Say I've got nothing other than I've got a newsletter that maybe 20% of people open and 1% of them actually click on. and I'm sending out emails to promote the next thing that I'm selling on, and that's where I'm at. Because asking for a friend, what would we do at that place to get better?
So I do one very simple thing. I'd identify what products sell most on my store and what I generally target, right? And I would simply add a tag, right? A tag, like an identification, whatever it is called, on every one of those links that they can click on to help me start to understand immediately the data around what they're clicking on. And that's going to give you a pattern. And suddenly you're going to say, holy shit, most of my people click on product A, right? And so when you see that, you're going to go ahead and create a little funnel, the product A funnel. And if they click on product A, you're going to exclude them from your campaigns for the next week or two. And you're going to go ahead and give them a step-by-step, one day, maybe a couple days later, you're going to hit them up. But you're going to literally remind them of the click and the product and the categories of those products. And you're just going to stay focused on it. And then if after 5-6 days, they don't make a purchase, you're going to let them come back into the top of the funnel where you're sending your campaigns. Think about that. I love that.
Yeah. So like, for instance, let me give you a use case. If I'm sending a newsletter once a week, not once a day. Whew. No, my assistant doesn't have that much time.
Yeah.
So let's say, like I was talking about how I'm sending these emails for like 5 or 6 days around a product, and each week I switch that product up.
Yeah.
Let me apply that to kind of what you're saying is, if I know that I can do that, and if you open that email, then I won't send it to you the next day. If we're to say that if that link was in the newsletter, because I put links to a whole bunch of stuff in the newsletter, and I built out that 5 or 6 day flow, and I've kind of figured out the open rates because I've run them.
Yeah.
So if somebody clicks on that in the newsletter for the next week, they're just primarily going to be exposed to only the flow of that one thing if they haven't seen it before. And now each week I'm basically product testing a new sales funnel for each link inside of my click. And I'm not going to get it on week 1, but after like 6 months, I'm going to have literally everything automated.
Correct. There you go, my friend.
That's easy. I can sit. My wife is working tonight. I can sit down after dinner and make that happen.
Dude. But just setting that up is so magical, because now you feel that you're getting listened to, man. That's all it is. And you're getting, even if they don't know you're listening to them, man, it's really nice when I get relevant emails from like that leather bag. Imagine if they were just sending you shoes. You might actually look at those and enjoy those a lot more than the women's bags that you're getting or the women's shoes you're getting, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And you're telling them by clicking on it what you want, man. Like, that's what I keep telling people. The intent signal is right under your nose. Let's focus on it.
Because right now I have it. Right now, my segmentation is they opened in the last 7 days or the last 30, or they clicked in the last 7 or last 30, regardless of what the email was. And it's like there's a newsletter on Sunday and a YouTube promo Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, because I have YouTube videos that go out basically every other day. And then that like drip of a product promo that happens throughout the week. And that's it. But because I was trying to focus on listening to the deliverability side of like, I'm going to send all the emails I like to the people that have clicked and people that haven't. I think that may be helping, but I could also go one step further and just say,
can I just give you a quick tip?
On any of these things, I'm going to show you this other thing.
Open it up a little bit more. Your segment's a little tight, man. A little bit tight.
Okay, fair enough. I don't know what I'm doing.
I would go to a 90
targeting audiences from like
for what I know you're doing. For what I know you're doing in the newsletter and the frequency, I would go wide on the click. I'd go 90-day click.
Ooh,
and I'd probably go at least 30 to 60 day opens, maybe probably 60 day opens. With info newsletters, what I've noticed a lot more times when they're newsletter type based, people don't always read them because they're reading them at times. So you've got to give them more time, and it's not going to hurt you there. So I would actually open that segment up a little bit, give them a little breathing room, because if you're sending that much, they're going to ignore a couple of them unless that subject line is a banger. So and that's where it comes down to.
I'm the one writing it.
So you got to curse more it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I use ChatGPT to give me things, and I go to vidIQ keyword thing, and then I basically match to see what headline would work as a YouTube video. And anyone that that comes in over like a 70, I'm like, cool, I'm gonna just run with that. And to be fair, that has worked better than me doing it.
Okay, well then we've got human versus AI. We've tested it here today, and
I'm qualifying the AI against indexing against YouTube, which is better than me at least going about it, because I am not the copywriter by any means. Yeah, man, I really appreciate it. I mean, I feel like we've got some actionability. We have some other things. I'm just curious. Just before we I want to respect your time too. I know we haven't really talked a lot about SendLane. I don't know if you feel comfortable talking about it or what you want to get into, but I am very interested in what you are doing there, because I think that it's a way to help people be more successful and be less stressed out with what they're doing, which will allow folks to focus on I'll say this. I think most people struggle because they define success the wrong way. They ask the wrong questions, or they value the wrong metrics. And often that happens because they don't have the bandwidth to think about what's actually important. Because what you said, there's all of these integrations, all of these stacks, all this data, and so much of it doesn't matter.
Correct. Yeah.
And I love the idea that you've kind of taken to this, this thing that has been standing sort of stagnant for a while, and applying it to that, because the upside is so massive. And
absolutely.
I mean, I've seen a bit more about it. I'm kind of talking inside baseball here a little bit, but like, if you don't mind just sharing a little bit on that, this isn't necessarily commercial, but just like, hey, look, there's a reason why we're talking. You got my attention, and I don't even care about email. And I'm room full of alpha dudes where I was surrounded by people that just want a question. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. So like, I just love your approach.
Yeah, dude, look. I'm a former merchant, a marketer, a lover, email marketer, and I created something that I believe is to fix a big problem in the world, which is the tech stack, right? And I don't believe you need to sacrifice on your email or SMS. I don't believe you need to sacrifice any of the tool setting, but I do know that what you need can be put together in one place, right? So SendLane today is an email marketing automation tool today, where a typical client comes from Klaviyo and Attentive, or Klaviyo and PostScript, and they unify their stack. They get better data, better service, they save money, they got a better tool, and ultimately, they're here for the vision. And the vision is all about the future, right? Reviews, customer support, what's that called again? Loyalty, attribution, insights, subscriptions. Like, we think about all of it. I think that all these little things that we have to buy, I mean, I hate saying this, but like, shouldn't feel as a merchant I've got to buy one little micro tool to just get my shipping notifications going, one micro tool for my transactional messages here, one little tool for we want to bring it all under one roof so that you have all the power. And the real reason why the power is important is not because like, we want to own the stack and all that stuff. It's really because it allows you as a marketer to do better things. Like our reviews product coming out in about 45 days, whenever you're listening to this, like, one, it's free. That's crazy. Two, it does more because you can't do it anywhere else. Like dynamic abandoned cart reviews, dynamic abandoned carts based around customer segments, like thinking more with the tools because we're bringing it together, right? The things that you need to do most. And so the vision is very simple. It's unification, one stack, be able to do everything. But the biggest thing I believe that I'm different in the world is that I also think of like the merchant. We don't price ourselves like the historical guys. We started changing the way that we think about pricing, usage-based. You pay for you use. The three things you use on my product: email, SMS, and data, right?
Got it.
Well, the data is whatever, right? So really, doesn't matter what any of our future products are. As long as you're using email and SMS, we're making money. You're having a successful tool, and everybody's happy that way. Because SaaS subscription, enterprise SaaS subscription, $60,000 a year contracts with locked terms. Like, you got to give people flexibility. You got to let people go up and down. Look, we have contracts, commitments, I call them, but they're not like contracts. They're commitments. If you yell at me, I'm going to let you out 100% of the time. I'm not like that, man. I just want a commitment to say, hey, you're going to do this for a year, and I'm going to give you a yearly price instead of a monthly price. Yeah. Fair ask. That's all I
think so too. And I run the same thing. I think the best customer service in the world is, oh, you're not happy? Here's your money back. Thank you for letting me know what you weren't satisfied with. 100%.
Like,
if you need to be more aggressive than that, there's probably something wrong in your service to begin with.
One of my favorite books is a book called Delivering Happiness by the late Tony Hsieh, right? He talks about customer service, the Zappos story. It's one of my favorite books because I relate to that, because I believe that, look, I don't believe the customer is always right, but I believe that
I agree with that 100%.
It's our job to make the customer feel right. If that makes sense. It's our job to make them feel satisfied and an outcome, right? Just because it didn't work out today doesn't mean they can't be a customer in a year from now. Don't burn the bridge. Be good. Keep being good to them. It'll be all right.
I had a guy join Disruptor School 2 days ago that signed up for a webinar 2 years ago and is literally like one of the first 100 tags in my thing. Like I sort of like, where's this guy? And he's literally on page 1 of my tags. And it's funny. He joined and he's like, attribution's nonsense, bro. No 7-day click's going to get this. I've just been seeing you forever. And it was like 17 other people he knew joined, and he finally was like, oh yeah. And I recognized his like profile picture because it was like in a Facebook group of mine like 5 years ago.
But
and
isn't that
like,
amazing though?
That's a beautiful thing. Yeah. And if you burn the bridges just trying to move forward, you're never going to care. You're never going to reach those people. You're never going to care about them. And I think
so. Yeah, I went off on a
yeah.
tangent there, but yeah, dude, that customer service is a huge component of SendLane. So like we talk about that. So there's a lot of things that we're great at, but the real big thing is that we are, and I always say, like, we're the marketers. The team I have under me is not just people in software. They're former agency owners, former founders, former e-commerce people. And that's why we believe we're doing better in the market right now. And that's why I also believe I relate to the market, because I actually understand the pain. And the pain we're solving is the core pain, not email, not SMS, but the stack. I want to eliminate the retention stack. I want to make that one stack for the world. And if that happens, God, everyone will just have a better night's sleep. And that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, no, I love it. You know, I was going to say this is that I think over the last 5 years, we have seen a tremendous boom in experts making tools to solve very specific problems. And I think that that's great. Being a specialist is important. We need the brain surgeons in the world. We need the, world-class cardiologists. The problem is
not everyone does.
Yeah, as real founders and as business operators, you're like, oh, well, I want the best of everything if you can afford it. And you end up just building up all of this waste in time and in contracts and money and complication with like, you end up making this Rube Goldberg device when you needed like 3 things.
You know what I always say, man? I say that everyone looks up to like Walmart and Target and Amazon and go, I need to do what they're doing. No, you really don't. It's not going to move the needle the same way.
Like they already beat you. You can't.
They're optimizing. They're at the level where they've got their shit figured out and they're just optimizing. That's why they're doing some of the stuff they're doing. I get it. You, Joe Schmo, want to do this as well. And I'm not being rude to people, but like, do you really need to do it? Or is it because you think that because they're doing it? And that's 100% like how the market learns. It's pretty interesting. Like the enterprise learns, teaches down and comes down the line. But like a lot of that doesn't always translate. It doesn't translate always black and white. And that's what I say, like it doesn't. And like, yeah, you're right. If you want a specialized tool, there's still plenty of specialized tools in the market, and that's what you should go for. But my mission is my everyday common Joe marketer, the 80% in the marketer world is probably going to be just fine with my tool.
Yeah.
And could you be leaving money? Probably, maybe, but I don't know, because you would have had to spend extra money on a specialized person to actually use the tool that you paid a lot of money for, that you might get a little bit more results.
Yeah, and if you had something simple that just worked in a way that you could rely on, in like the world of the scientific method, if email becomes a constant, you can work on the variable, right?
100%. That's like, what I'm saying.
I just see so many people worrying about all the little things. It's funny, my assistant was telling me this, and she was saying, her name is Jasmine, she's amazing. And she was saying that, there's a lot of people I know that are penny pinchers.
Yep.
And it's not to say anything negative or positive. It's just the people that worry about every little penny often have far fewer pennies as a result of that behavior. And I thought that was like just really interesting to hear, because I see in this case, like we're talking about, so many people are so worried about getting every little incremental edge that they don't realize, like, if I could just do one thing well. Yeah. Like I see it in the Facebook ad side. So many folks are like, well, I'm working and I need to do more testing so I can keep moving. And my point to them is like, if you could spend 10% more to acquire that customer, you're making a profit, why not just spend more? Like so many times the easiest optimization somebody can be making is literally not touching anything and letting the machine get smarter and throwing a few and amplifying the volume.
Yeah. I always say double down on the things that are working. Stop trying to add more things that aren't working to your stack, right? Like that's really the same way of thinking about it. Like, ads working. Why are you optimizing, testing it? Just double down, put more budget on it.
Yeah. Like, why are you doing creative testing? Why are you doing landing pages? Why are you doing all this stuff? I'm like, well, you're supposed to, but you have a 30% profit margin and your problem is you can't scale. Just spend more money. That would literally solve the problem. And then it's like, well, we have all the meetings about meetings and all the stuff. I've been in those corporate environments of like startups. They go from 7 people to 50 and they die because they're not able to be nimble. And I think ultimately, if I was to say my impression of it, just as an outside person, of how you're trying to solve this problem and why I love it so much, is that it makes it, number one, simple enough for the average person to get better than they are instead of using all the bells and whistles. I don't need I don't need a Gallardo to go grocery shopping.
No.
You know what I mean? And so I think that that's amazing. And two, I think the fact that you can, if I can make my business work with a tool that is that simple, then I can get better at using that simple tool and get better at what happens because of that tool. Yeah. And the biggest moat any business can make is in the ops of the business. My friend Laura Lynn from Warby Parker taught me that so much, is that the difference between you and the company next door that does the exact same thing, who's going to win is whoever runs a better business.
Correct.
And the simpler it is for me to get to a consistent, reliable answer, the faster and more confident my ability is to solve the problems will be. Yep. And you basically have taken several things that all used to be one, then became 47 different things, bringing them back down to the one. It's just like I get it. It is, you're not going to every single store for every single merchant thing on all this stuff, but we're getting it done. Yep. I don't need 17 specialized tools to get one job taken care of.
You got it. And you don't need specialized people to do your tools either. That's the second thing. God, the whole thing about having to hire special people, right? Like Salesforce people just to run your stack, right? Geez, how did that happen, man? Why couldn't we just simplify? We're smart humans here. Why did we let this happen?
Yeah. And so anyway, I love it. I want to value your time too. I don't want to take you forever, but just I dig what you're doing, man. And I really appreciate it. And I think also, for just what it's worth, there are some folks in here that I think you have a good head on your shoulders about what you're trying to do and where you're coming from. And I like to see that, because sadly we exist in a space where there are so many used car salesmen that do the rain dance 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
That are willing to sell you a jalopy and take credit for when it starts to rain.
Yep.
That you could literally just be a human being with content of character, and you're going to actually create enough of a market for yourself that you don't need to do more and create good. And so that's my impression, for whatever it's worth, of what you're doing, because
that's exactly what I like to do, because that's who I like to work with. That's who I am. And there's so many people in business and world to build together. You don't have to own it all. You just need to be good at the place you want and be related to the people you want to relate to. And that is what builds a good business. Because look, dude, life's short, man. We only do so much. At least get to enjoy it, right?
100%.
I don't want to sit here and be a corporate hard hammer guy. That's not us. I'm not that good. In fact, I will tell a customer who's a jerk to me that we're not going to service them. We fire people all the time, and not all the time. I take it back. But we fire people in the past, right?
Yeah. When you need to, you have the
and it's not even we haven't even gotten to the first date often when this happens. There's just the first meeting. You're like, you just know this guy's just going to, guy or girl is just going to be a pain in our butt. And we basically tell the customer, we don't have time for pain in the butts here today. We've got a lot of great customers to service and great human beings. And that's who you should be if you want to work here. So even in our company culture is to be kind to each other, because we have no time in our lives to be mean. And that translates to the company too. And so to your point, I'm here to meet with the authentic, to meet with the people. And I believe that there's enough of a market in the people that I don't have to worry about the rest of it. And that will come naturally.
I think you're right, man. And it shows, or at least that's my unfettered opinion from the outside. And it seems like that's lining up with what you're trying to do. And that's amazing. So I'll end with this, man. I don't want to get the last word in. So why don't if there's anything that you want to say, anything that you want to tell people about, any place you want people to find you, websites, whatever the things you want to shill, let people know about it. So
that very simple. Look, things. You can find me on 2 places in the world, Twitter and LinkedIn. Twitter, it's Yo Jimmy Kim. So YOJIMMYKIM. Apparently Jimmy Kim was taken and he won't let it go. So, from 1998 or something. My Twitter's old too. In fact, it's funny. And then the second one is on LinkedIn. So you can look me up, Jimmy Kim, on LinkedIn. I post there a little bit different content. I post more on Twitter, but LinkedIn has more strategic, impactful stuff and memes over there. So you can come check it out. So those are my 2 channels. You can find me. or I don't know, you can find, I'm everywhere ultimately. So wherever you see me, I am hyper responsive. That's the big thing about me. I like to say is that I know how important it is to get a response because I've been on the other end, and I will respond to you regardless of who you are. As long as you're not just hard hitting pitching me, I will ignore you for that one. So
yeah.
So,
How is your industry? Oh,
yes.
God.
How is your industry? Or hello, I like that you are quote, and then they put like your profile stuff, and you're like, no, no, no. Approach me like a human. I'll tell you no. At least I won't waste your time.
Yeah. Oh man, the LinkedIn cold DM game is obscene.
Yeah, there's a playbook out there. I'm sure that's probably what someone's following. So
Oh, yeah,
it's always playbook. Someone made a playbook, and
Yeah.
that's what we follow. And again, another one that hasn't evolved. The old sales playbook needs to evolve. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I tell my internal team. Like, we don't talk about our competitors in a negative way, no matter how negative they are, because that's not our job. Our job is to tell them how great our product is and what we can do to benefit them, right? Like, that's how a demo should go, in my opinion. And that's something that we also honor within the company too.
I love it, man. Well, thank you very much, dude. I'm gonna let you go. It's been a pleasure, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you sooner than later about many different types of things. And yeah, dude, I just really appreciate it. It's nice to meet good people in the space that are doing good things, and I hope other folks get to learn something from this, because I had fun. At the end of the day, I had a good time. And I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, me too, man. Thanks for reaching out and inviting me to this, man. Hopefully we'll do it again. And dude, I'll see you at the next industry thing, I'm sure. So
I'm sure I'm gonna be. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I gotta.
I'm sure
time to do these things.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see each other soon. So GeekX probably, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think so. That's probably
so. In a month, I'll see you then.
I'll see you then.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.